So part A, we're asked to find the values of the constants A, B, and C. So again, just noticing this is of completing the square format. So I'm just going to come over to this side for that. So for part A, we're starting off with 2x squared plus 8x plus 1. And again, I'd be, well, for completing the square, I'd be looking at, does this 2, can I factorize that out of every single term? If not, then we're just going to factorize it out of the first 2, and we'll complete the square. So f of x, sorry, I just squeeze it in there, is equal to 2. Open up the big bracket. Again, I'm going to use square brackets just to emphasize this in this video throughout. So I've got x squared plus 4x, closing off that square bracket, and I've got my plus 1 just hanging around at the end. So every single line now will have this 2 and this plus 1 until I've used them. So I'm going to have the 2, big bracket, and then this plus 1 at the end. And inside this, I'm going to complete the square on x squared plus 4x. So half of 4 is 2, so I get x plus 2, and then minus 2 squared, which is actually 4. So that's the completion of that. F(x) out there. And then finally, we want to multiply through by what's in there. So I want to times this by 2. So I've got 2 times bracket, which is x plus 2. Now I'm going to do this in one step, but 2 times minus 4 is minus 8, and then I've got this plus 1. That's going to be minus 7. So that's the first part of A finished. So I know that A is 2, B is 2, and C is minus 7. I'm going to go on just to say that this implies I've got a minimum at the point minus 2, minus 7. Because I've just scouted ahead, and I've noticed that my next part of the question is to sketch the graph. So I'm going to need a couple of important points here, one of which being the minimum. When sketching, we're going to need intercepts, so that includes roots, so Y-intercepts, X-intercepts, and minimum or maximum. So I've got this part, so now I need to do my intercepts. So keep in mind for a Y-intercept is when x is 0. So what's happening in your curve? So when x is 0, you can do it in either of these actually. It's probably easier to do it in this one now. Actually, no, definitely easier in the first. So x is 0 into here, so I've got nothing, nothing, and I've got a 1. So f of x is 1, y equals 1. So that gives me my intercept for the y-intercept. For the x-intercept, I need to say set the actual curve or f of x equal to 0. And I'm going to use this with the complete square form. So I'm going to start with 2 lots of x plus 2 squared minus 7. I'm going to set that equal to 0. And now I'm going to start solving from here. So my first thing is to take away 7 and then divide by 2. So I get x plus 2 squared is equal to, so adding 7 and then dividing by 2. Then I'm going to square root. So I've got x plus 2 equals, it's a bit of a strange one this one because I need to square root everything. So the square root of 7 over 2, and then I'm going to subtract 2. Excuse me. So subtracting 2, I get that x equals minus 2 plus minus, and then root 7 over 2. So what we could do, I don't have my calculator to hand, I don't think. What we could do is could try and work those out as decimals, just so we know whereabouts those are, because we're going to need to sketch this. And I'm going to be honest, I've got no idea where that actually is. So you might want to work these out as decimals. You could, before you do so, you could try and simplify this a little bit and make it a little bit tidier. So this would be the same as, actually, to be fair, you just go straight into it, but you could rewrite this as, what would it be? It'd be minus 4 plus or minus root 14 all over 2. So you could kind of do that. This is exactly the same thing here. If you're not quite sure what I've done here, just either ask me or Mr. Tom will be able to tell you how you get from here to here. But it's just a little bit of manipulation. On your calculator, that's telling me that either x is minus 0.129 or x equals minus 3.871. So now we've actually got those values, we can look to actually sketch this. So we've got everything we need to be able to sketch this curve, which is what we're going to be doing just next. So let's have a look at that. So what we need to do, I'm just going to rewrite these over here. So I know that when y is 0, x equals minus 0.129 or x equals minus 3.871. In actual fact, I prefer this. So I'm just going to put it in brackets here. X equals minus 4 plus minus root 14 over 2. These just help you realize whereabouts it is, but you can actually tell that this is everything's negative here. So the square root of 14 must be less than 4. So when you do minus 4 plus something less than 4, it's still going to be negative, which is this one. And then when you take it away, it's going to get more negative. So we can actually tell just by looking at this that it's all going to be negative. So I'm just going to clear out this so I can actually have enough room to draw my sketch. So when sketching, I would recommend using a ruler and pencil just for or ruler and pen. Doesn't really matter for the axes, but just make sure they're straight for the axes. Ruler and pencil is ideal. Drawing your axes, and then we're just going to look to draw this curve. So remembering it's going to go down to minus 2, minus 7. And it's going to cross when y is 1. So I'm going to label that first. There's 1. And then I'm just going to draw it. So I know that the minimum's on this side in the bottom kind of quadrant. So I'm going to come down here. And I'm literally just going to sketch that. Notice how I missed my 1. Not a problem. I'll literally just delete what I've put there. And I'm going to say that actually this point here is 1. So I'm just updating that. It's fine. At this point, I want to label. So this one here, I'm going to just put an arrow to it. This one is x is minus 4 plus root 14 divided by 2. Or in other words, it is minus 0.129. And this point on this side, this is x is minus 4 minus root 14 divided by 2. Or minus 3.871. And the other really important point is this one here. So there's minus 2. And this point here is minus 7. So again, you can just label that underneath if you want, just to make it a bit easier. But what we wanted to label here are the roots, the intercept, and the turning point. If you've got all of those, you're going to get full points for this question. Now, what's interesting to note is if you try and find the difference between these two values. So if you did, on your calculator, if we did minus 0.129 plus minus 3.871, and then divided it by 2. So remember, to find a midpoint, you add them together and divide. So if I do minus 0.129 plus minus 3.871, and then I divide that by 2, I actually get minus 2, which is actually where this minimum point occurs, because obviously that, again, that central axis on here. So it's just an interesting kind of one to have a look at. But that's all of that one. Hopefully that helps again.